Can we step out of the 80s for just a second, if you don't mind? All I ever knew of R.L. Stine were the Goosebumps books, which were cute, but by the time they had started being released, I was a hardened veteran of Haddonfield, Elm Street, and Crystal Lake. They just weren't going to scare me. And then I heard about these Netflix films that were being released, and I became intrigued at all the rumors and some of the casting decisions and what this would mean for horror as a whole. So if you don't mind, let's go ahead and jump back to 1994 by way of 2021's Fear Street Part 1. God, I hope I said all that right. Robin. You want to talk about a way to grab somebody's attention starting off a Netflix film? Give us some of that Stranger Things goodness right off the bat in the form of Maya Hawke playing Heather. Not Robin, Heather, but she's working in a mall very similar to Starcourt. Now keep in mind this is 1994, so malls are still hopping. They're still very much a major thing here. And she gets a scare at closing time when her friend Ryan pops out at her. Then Ryan, who is supposed to catch a ride with her or give her a ride, he starts hearing whispering voices calling out his name, which, for the record, never a good thing in a horror film. Now, a big empty mall at closing is a perfect setting for a murder spree. It just is. It reeks of horror goodness. Heather ends up being attacked by someone in a skull mask and costume, and this is a swift, fleet of foot killer too, a lot like Ghostface was. And then they give us a little bit of a tease as to what's going on because we see that very costume in the window of Spencer's Gifts, which also major place to be in the 90s. And that's where Ryan worked. Now Heather, she channels some of that Hawkins training to fight this killer off for a while before ultimately succumbing to him in the center of a food court. I can't believe they killed off Robin. But she does pull the mask free, finds out that it's her friend Ryan attacking her, and he's got flies buzzing around him. A bullet through his head later, though, and he collapses on top of Heather. Boom. Nailed the cold open. Great set of opening credits that talk of past massacres, a witch, just really gnarly shit. But gonna take a handful of minutes for me to recover from Robin getting got at the very beginning of this movie. So as far as Fear Street goes, at the root of it, it's about two towns. Now, Sunnyvale is a blissful place most people would hope to raise a family in. They've gone 30 years without violent crime. I have no idea how that's even a possibility in this day and age, or even back in the 90s, for Christ's sakes. We had all sorts of serial killers back then. But then there's Shadyside. And Shadyside, you can't turn on the TV, you can't pick up a newspaper, and yes, newspapers were real things too. There were things that had words that were printed and you bought them and you read them and they informed you as to the world's goings-ons. You couldn't pick up a newspaper without hearing about another kid or resident or somebody going berserk and killing someone within the Shadyside city limits. One more thing before we get too deep into this and start talking about who's stabbing who, but we have to acknowledge the soundtrack here because they nail the music in this film beautifully. Dina is our angsty lead teenager sitting in her room writing a love note to someone or an FU note to someone named Sam, while Only Happy When It Rains by Garbage is blaring in her room. We meet her little brother Josh, who's on an AOL chat room, God bless his little heart, listening to Bush's Machine Head. I mean, that song has been played more by me than any human being on the planet. I guarantee it. I dare anybody to combat me on it. Followed by Radiohead's Creep, another solid. I mean, the music here, fantastic. And this 1994 era is when I was a teenager, so this is my bag right here. And there's talk on this AOL chat that Josh is involved in of the witch Sarah Fear, recurring theme in this movie. Now Heather, or Robin, as we know and love her, she was a student at Shadyside. But man, the kids at the school the very next day seemed hype at the idea that this witch is at work again, even though one of our main kids has been killed off at the very beginning of the movie. Now, we've got another guy named Simon who would play a pivotal role in the movie, running around the hallways, actually dressed up as a witch, and that's just in poor taste to me. By the time we get to the vigil that night with high schools from both Sunnyvale and Shadyside in attendance, we learn that Sam, who Dina is lovelorn over, is actually a girl named Samantha who lives in Sunnyvale. And at the time of the vigil, she's getting her backside massaged by the prick from the opposing football team. We get a brief but pretty fun set piece involving a school bus after a brawl breaks out at the vigil. Everybody's torqued up, everybody's wound up. Sunnyvale kids are following this bus, carrying Shadysiders closely, and Sam is riding shotgun in this thing. Dina is getting ready to play a prank because they're throwing bottles at the bus and they feel like they need to throw a cooler back at them, and then she gets a random nosebleed. Is that another Stranger Things reference? If 11 showed up in this, I would have lost my shit. Good thing I watched it from the comfy confines of my living room. But this causes the car behind the bus to get into a wreck, including Sam. Sam winds up bleeding from her nose after the car is brought to a stop on the side of the road, all over this like red moss, and then she reaches down onto it and gets like a vision of a witch. And we get a cop that shows up by the name of Nick Good, and he just immediately reeks of suspicion to me. There's a lot that goes on in that moment, and I had to watch this movie 2 or 3 times before I caught all of it. I'm still not sure I understand this legend of the witch thing, but we'll get to that when we get to that. We jump forward in the next night, and Dina and Josh are at home when Dina sees someone in that skull mask, because the Sunnyvalers that were tailgating the bus, they were wearing the skull mask when the wreck happened. She sees somebody in the mask and the costume lurking outside of her home and immediately assumes it was Peter, Sam's Sunnyvale guy, because he was wearing that very outfit just the night prior. Across the way, Kate and Simon are babysitting, and this shifty little skeleton shithead breaks in and starts rummaging through the laundry before disappearing. And that view of this skull mask slowly turning to look at them while he's rummaging through dirty laundry is very unsettling. They did a great job with that visual. The whole skull killer sort of costume, it's simple, but it really, really works here. And can we talk about Kate using these kids to separate the drugs that she sells at school? I mean, I guess it keeps her labor costs down. Tad irresponsible. Things take the bloodiest of turns, though, when Dina, Josh, Kate, and Simon decide to confront Sam at the hospital about Peter tormenting them. Only it's not Peter that's tormenting them, because we see Peter catch a knife in the back by the skull killer before he lunges violently towards Sam. And can I bring attention to the fact that this is yet another deserted hospital in a horror film? I get that it's probably an easier filming option, but still. It's here, though, that we find out that the killer still behind the skull mask is Ryan Still, the guy from the mall that got an attic window blown through his forehead. Still pursuing, still moving forward, still trying to kill teenagers. There's no quitting that guy. On top of that, another killer shows up singing softly and swiping a straight razor at Simon. Now, Josh figures out that Simon was attacked by Ruby Lane, who some 30 years prior had her very own killing spree right there in Shadyside. Then they start looking at all of the different noteworthy killers in their town's history and realize that if they all come back, they're in some really, really deep shit. And I'm partial to the Camp Nightwing killer myself, because I'm a sucker for summer camps and short shorts and all the things that go along with massacres at that places. I don't know what it says about me, but it's probably pretty fucked up. On top of that, they realize that it's Sam's blood that draws the killers towards them. Simon had her blood all over his t-shirt, which is why the skull killer broke into that house, started sniffing his laundry. Dina had it all over her shoes, which is what led the killer towards that house. This at least gives them something that they can work with moving forward. Also, a little further pondering, a little more investigation into the news clippings from the past, and they realize the witch Sarah Fear is behind this because her grave was disturbed. Now listen, I get it. I don't like it when people mess with my sleep either. Might need to pull back on the aggression on this one just a hair. But the only major issue I will say that I have with this movie is it does feel a little too long, and I can't figure out why. It's not 2 hours. The pacing's not bad. It just feels little long maybe. The last 3 big set pieces, the hospital, the high school, and then the grocery store, all very good, but they all feel very similar. So maybe that's why there seems to be a bit of a drag. Not a bad thing, okay? I think they are really, really doing a good job with this film. These kids are horny though, man. I'm telling you right now, they are in the thick of it in this high school, and numerous maniacs are racing towards them with sharp objects. Sam and Dina are dry humping, Josh and Kate are necking in a stall, and Simon, God bless his heart, is using school hand soap to treat himself like an amusement park in the bathroom. Throughout all of this, the cop Nick Good is giving major douche chills. Something is up there. Didn't know what it was at the time, but it reaffirms that he knows more than he's leading on when he slides a note under the door of some chick that says it's happening again. Shifty little shit that he is. Josh, once again being the big brain of the group, realizes that there was in fact a survivor last time, and the only reason they made it through is because they died and were brought back. Seems like a sound enough plan, right? Because they get to a point where nothing is working. I mean, without giving more away, and I'm not going to give any more away, because these movies are new enough to where maybe you haven't seen them. Maybe R.L. Stine's name attached to it leads you to believe they're not real noteworthy horror films to sit down with. They give us a big enough twist at the end of this movie that left me chomping at the bit to get to the next one. And that's all I'll say about that. Love the characters, love the dynamic between Dina and Sam. It was really sweet, and you wanted them to sort of find their way back to one another. Josh, Kate, and Simon were so well played that you thought they might make it all through, or at least you wanted them to make it all through. And that whole sort of Romeo and Juliet stuff with the Sunnyvale and Shadyside, it worked. It was really, really well done here. I kind of dug that. Story was sort of messy until I realized that this was going to tie into two other movies, and then I was amped for what was to come. I mean, and Max was in the 1978 edition that we get to with Camp Nightwing. Very, very next film. Take my money, Netflix. You got me. This is an 8 out of 10. This is a really well done horror movie. This is going to age gracefully. I've seen it a handful of times already. I'm looking forward to when I can sit down with it again. I don't know. That's it. I've already talked too long. This is Aging Gracefully. I am Matthew Essex. I appreciate you taking the time to watch any of this stuff that I put out there. Subscribe to the channel. Like the video if you like it. Comment if you want to talk about this movie with me. I always comment back. I so appreciate the conversation. I'll see you guys at Camp Nightwing and on the other side.